Welcome back to the Finding Direction speaker series. This time we spoke to Travis Macy about his professional journey as a teacher, sponsored athlete, author and podcaster, and a coach. You can find more information about Travis in the description. We also started this event with an intro video that is worth watching, which you can find the link to in the description as well. A big thank you to the Western Colorado University School of Graduate Studies for funding this speaker series, and additional support from the High Altitude Exercise Physiology program.
Great. So I'll stop sharing and Travis will hit it right to you.
All righty. Well, yeah, like I said, Travis Macy here.
Sorry. Just kidding. Okay, please continue.
Athlete, author, speaker, coach, and podcaster. Lived most of my life in Evergreen, Colorado, and now living in Salida. I love Gunny. Spent a lot of time there over the years. Any question is a good one as I'm going here. Feel free to cut me off, or I've got the chat box open, so you're welcome to put any questions in there. And really my plan is just sort of a brief mini lesson, if you will, here, talking a little bit about my career progression to my current roles, highlight some of the inflection points of the career, and some of my current projects with the book I'm writing and the podcast. And then really it's open for questions. You can ask me about my work, about things that I've talked about the athletics that you saw there, with the World's Toughest Race Eco Challenge that we did in Fiji a couple years ago, and is available on Amazon Prime. Really, you can ask me whatever you want. So let's kick it off, I guess, with that career progression. I graduated from Evergreen High School in 2001, headed off to school at CU Boulder. My plan was to follow that with med school. So I was doing a lot of math and science classes, also pursuing a major in humanities, because I liked those courses and I liked the honors department, and I felt that it could offer maybe a well-rounded applicant to medical schools. My first couple years at CU, I was on the varsity cross country and track teams as a walk-on. And then my junior year, I moved to the club triathlon team and had some fun with that. And then my senior year kind of made the shift to focusing on adventure racing. So these longer multi-day races, running, biking, paddling, navigating, fixed ropes. And that's something, as you saw in the video, that my dad had done over the years with the Eco Challenge races in the 90s and some other events as well. And kind of the traditional, I guess, on the physiology side, on the traditional view or trajectory would be that an athlete spends a lot of time working up through the distances. But I was 20, 21, 22, and I was excited about doing these multi-day, week-long races, and so I just hopped in and did them. And at that time, I was out there mostly with older athletes, in their 30s and 40s and even older. But I think for a young athlete, you can build that physiology and the fitness and even the endurance, and as long as you have the mindset, you can do well. And I think that's something, this is kind of an aside, but we're seeing, for example, in the pro road cycling peloton is these men and women who are 20, 21, 22 and winning the tour and winning the big grand tour races. And previously that would have been unexpected. You would have thought you have to put in the time over a decade or so before you get that endurance. But anyway, the young people can do it. So that's kind of an aside. I graduated from CU the undergrad in 2005, and I realized kind of sort of during my junior and senior year that I like the math and science courses, but I also realized if I was going to pursue med school, that was probably really going to limit some of the things I wanted to do in my life as far as adventure racing and competing at a high level and traveling around, seeing the world. So, and I also figured, hey, if you want to go back to med school some other time, you can. And that's, one lesson I've learned is just because you make a choice not to do something now doesn't mean you can't do it later. If you decide you want to, you can always re-choose or pivot, to use the, the politician's word. So anyway, 2005, graduated college. I had an offer to begin teaching at a private school in Denver called Denver Academy, and my girlfriend at the time and now wife Amy was teaching there already. And that, at that time, that would have been kind of the traditional or quote stable choice, but I really wanted to go for it in adventure racing, and I didn't have a sponsorship, but I believed myself and I thought I could get one. So instead of taking that full-time job, I started doing some substitute teaching and some bussing tables and things like that, really just stuff to make ends meet, while I also trained and did everything I could to apply for sponsorships, so from running shoe companies and, outdoor industry companies. And at that time, this is, 2005. So really pre-social media. So I was, cutting out clippings of magazine articles and stuff and putting them, copying these big packets and mailing them to people. And, I realized very quickly, you have to be okay with hearing no. And anytime you put yourself out there, whether it's asking for a sponsorship or as a teacher or as a speaker, or as an author, there's going to be critics, and that's okay. It's just part of the deal. So anyway, I heard no over and over, but finally, lo and behold, kind of in, I guess, I don't know, late 2005 or so, the ski company Spider said yes, and we want to sponsor your adventure racing team. So we got a good contract down on paper, and they basically gave us a couple $100,000 per year as a travel budget to travel around the world to all the big races. And we even got a living stipend of $1,250 each per month. And for me at the time, like, man, this is awesome. I'm a pro athlete. So anyway, kind of pursued that full on for a few years. Got to travel around the world doing the big races and stuff. And those races, they weren't on TV like the Eco Challenge was. They were successful races with good competition and prize money, but they were, it was always a fringe sport, I guess, as it still is for the most part. So anyway, that was my focus for a couple of years. I've also learned that sponsorships are usually, they're kind of fickle by nature, because companies, they get new marketing people, they choose a new direction. For example, we had a great adventure racing sponsorship with Solomon sometime, and this all of a sudden there was this kid who came along named Killian Jornet, and they decided to hook up with him and go to the running side. And it was a good choice for Solomon, as it turns out. And regarding, high altitude physiology, that name Killian, is probably top of the top. So anyway, during that period, Amy and I went to New Zealand for almost a year and lived over there, kind of on couches and in a car and in a little apartment we rented. And that was a great chance to expand my adventure racing skills and really work on paddling and, train with some of the best athletes in the world. And did a cool race there called the Coast to Coast. Then we came back home to the Colorado area. And at that time I applied for and was offered again that same teaching job that I had, turned down a couple of years ago. And this time I took it. And at that point it was a good fit. I've always loved helping people and, making an impact. And I was able to do that at the time as a high school teacher, while continuing to also pursue my racing career. And during that time I did a distance learning program to earn a master's in education. And, that was good. I learned some stuff, out of the books. I definitely learned a lot more just being in the classroom, and actually teaching and, interacting with people. But the master's degree did give me a bit of a pay bump when I moved to a public school a couple years later. That would have been 2009. I started teaching in Jefferson County public schools, in Evergreen High School, which is, as I said, the same school that I graduated from. And it was, great to be back in Evergreen. Good community. Got to teach, with some of my old teachers, from back in the day. So, that was neat. And then, that really brought me to kind of, a key, inflection point, I would say, in, 20 let's see, I taught at Evergreen for a couple years, and then I moved to the Jeffco Virtual Academy, which is a fully online, high school program. Did that for a couple years, and that was a good fit. About that time, our kids were born. They're now 8 and 10, and that allowed me to have this flexible conglomeration of parenting and teaching, and also, continuing with some of my own training and racing, and beginning to build, my coaching business on the side. And that was, I don't know, maybe another takeaway. The coaching, it wasn't like I just cut off teaching and built coaching from zero. Coaching was a side thing, that built and built and built in addition to my writing and my racing and all of that. So, it was definitely a lot of different things, but it was all stuff I liked, and somehow I figured it out. So, my wife was also building her, side job as an independent, post-secondary transition counselor. So working with high school kids and their families on the college transition process. And, around about 2014, we both had enough side business to kind of, put some faith in the jump to being self-employed, and we went for it. And it was, like I said, we didn't know if it was going to work for sure. We had the business going, but we didn't have enough business to totally replace our incomes. And, we had kids who were, 3 and 1 at the time, and we owned a house and had a mortgage and all that. So, there was definitely some uncertainty. And I think what traditionally some people would call risk. But my view of risk often is that people overlook the risk of not going for things. So, okay, if I go for this, they think, oh, it's the uncertainty, or I may not have the income or whatever. But, man, if you have a big dream and you don't go for it, in my opinion, that's a pretty darn big risk. And you may not have the chance again. So anyway, we said, hey, if this doesn't work out, we can go back and get our teaching jobs back or do something similar. Or I was actually halfway through a principal licensure program at the time, that I had paid for, and I was doing the tests and the essays, and that would have been another, master's, degree plus the principal licensure. But I also realized, the principal jobs, you make a lot more money than you do as a teacher, but it also has way more control over your life, and you're spending a lot less time with your family, and it's highly stressful. And there were a lot of, divorces among principals I know, probably somewhat related to the job stress. And so anyway, I thought maybe there's a better way. So anyway, we pulled the plug, we jumped ship. And, those initial years, again, I was building the coaching business. Amy was building her high school counseling business. For some time there, I had to work with her business for a while, doing essay editing and test prep for ACT and SAT and that kind of stuff, because my coaching business just, it wasn't quite where I wanted it yet. But I was patient, and I kept building. And, kind of after a few years of sort of working together there, and some of you may have or will experience working with a significant other, which has its joys and, also its challenges. And for us, it was not a good long-term fit, but we did it for a while to make things work. And, anyway, I was able to pretty much cut that off and keep doing my own thing, with coaching, and then also with some paid speaking and consulting here and there, which really built after my book came out in 2015. So that's kind of, that's kind of been the path, I guess. With my kids being 8 and 10 now, I'm spending a lot of time doing the dad thing, and I love it. But they're more active, so they can ski and bike, and I can go to their games and stuff. So I'm doing less of my own racing, but still doing some. Really enjoying racing from the coaching perspective. Whether that's elite athletes or more likely just people who want to do their best, want to finish their first ultra run or something like that. So that's definitely fulfilling. I got into burro racing this summer, Colorado's official heritage sport. Maybe you guys have heard about it. It's talk about high altitude physiology. So you're in a place like Leadville, or Fairplay, and you're running along with a burro, or a donkey on a leash, and pretty sweet sport. There should be a racing gunny. I mean, I don't know, maybe there used to be or something. And then my two latest projects are a podcast that I started with my dad early 2021, and it's been great for me personally to just enrich my life by researching interesting people, talking with one person every week, and putting it out there, hopefully in a format that people like or find helpful. And then we're working on another book as well, kind of a memoir, sort of telling the Alzheimer's story. And with any especially again, you have a house and kids and you got to buy food and stuff. I mean, income, I think, has to be a priority for a job, and that's okay. But I also have always been very motivated by impact, and I think I've found a few different ways to hopefully keep that going.
Awesome. I definitely feel like I'm pulling on some questions, but I'm going to try not to dominate the conversation here, because obviously I asked you to come. So maybe if anybody on Zoom, or if any of you guys want to kick us off before we dig in here. Okay. I think the first thing that comes to mind for me, especially in line with sort of building a coaching business, I'm curious if you have any thoughts on whether or not being sponsored as an athlete help facilitate your coaching business, maybe just with visibility, or even with like gear or perks for your clients, and how that's factored in, and how helpful or important that would be for somebody who's trying to become a coach.
Yep. Yeah, I think as far as coaching endurance athletes, first of all, not every great coach is an athlete or has been a great athlete. And very much true as well is not every great athlete makes a great coach. So that said, did my own racing experience and, ongoing involvement with my own events, does that help the coaching business? For me, absolutely so. And there's different models with coaching to pursue, whether it's, for me, I do pretty much all comprehensive coaching at a monthly rate, where I'm interacting a lot with the athlete, and unlimited changes in the Training Peaks platform and analysis of workouts and all that kind of stuff. Some people sell training plans, or some people come in and connect with a larger coaching company, like for example, CTS or Carmichael Training Systems comes to mind. And those are all different ways to do it. I've intentionally kept my business small, really with just me and sometimes one other coach who takes other clients if they're a good fit for her. But I don't necessarily want to manage other coaches or all the details, or pay for rental spaces or anything like that. But yeah, to get back to the original question, for me, yes, my own racing or some level of notoriety there has definitely helped. I would say, especially in the Leadville race series, where I've done some racing and did the Leadman competition, and so every year I tend to have clients in that series, and I also, for that series in particular, I partner in mutually beneficial ways as far as providing talks and Q&As on their Facebook channel, or podcasts with them, or whatever. So finding, I would say in general, I've seen other coaches and other potential quote competitors, and maybe it's just my personality. I see them more as kind of, we're in this together. There's enough business out there. Let's do things that help each other, and we'll have all the synergy moving forward. And that's definitely helped my business as well.
I have a follow-up to that in terms of how you structure the way you coordinate with your clients. You mentioned you do monthly plans. What other strategies have you learned that have helped you kind of have a boundary for your own personal time and not letting it kind of consume you?
Yeah. No, that's definitely something to be intentional about, especially when I'm forced to do it because I have kids, and like I'm just it basically evenings and weekends. I'm not working. I don't check email. I don't look at text messages. My phone, there's no notifications on it. So, someone texts me, it doesn't buzz or anything. Like in my opinion, text messaging is an asynchronous form of communication, which, means like it's like email. You send this message, and then later on, especially when it's current clients, I reply, as soon as I can in a timely manner, but typically it's, not evenings and weekends. And I tell clients that up front, and for the the clients who are doing the comprehensive coaching, we're in touch regularly anyway, through Training Peaks and through phone calls and stuff like that. And I also, again, I mean, there's no right or wrong way to offer a business, but some coaches, they have 4 or 5 different tiered programs, and tier 1, you get 3 text messages a week, and plus an email and a call every 17 days, or like for me, I don't have the headspace to coach 100 people and keep track of all these different emails or whatever. So I coach fewer people, and I'd say, if when you need me to help me, just call me and we'll figure it out.
Thanks.
And I do also, and I guess I didn't mention sort of I did the master's in education, but then I've also done a lot of ongoing education in the coaching space, especially for things like ultra running and adventure racing. There's less, classroom learning out there, especially adventure racing, which is a number of my athletes, or ski mountaineering. I mean, I think it would be really hard to coach those things if you haven't done them a lot. And, thankfully I have. So I've got that experience, but I'm also constantly doing professional development, whether it's through USA Track and Field, just kind of basic running physiology stuff. The Training Peaks system and platform, they have tons of ongoing seminars and just various education that's really helpful. And then also just kind of the outside of the classroom education that you get, for example, through listening to podcasts, or things like that, where you can stay ahead of a lot of trends. And the new, like in the cycling world, there's all this talk about the continuous glucose monitor, and you can't get it yet in the US, but all the cyclists are using it. And I'm a little skeptical of these, everything that's going to solve every problem, but my interest is definitely peaked. And I think it might be particularly relevant to these ultra distance races.
Yeah, I'm curious at how starting up your coaching business kind of happened, because you said it started as a side gig, but what did that process look like for you?
Yeah, great question. So I, like I said, I was teaching as my main job. I'd been an athlete for a long time. I'd had coaches before, so I'd had, some experience on how that relationship works and what it's like from an athlete standpoint. And I basically, I a friend had mentioned like, hey, I want to do my first ultra run, and I was like, all right, man, I'm going to coach you for it. So I bought a Training Peaks account, and we connected in there, and I said, you, Charles, are client number one, so you get free lifetime coaching, no matter what. And he has come back a few times since then. This is now I don't know what, 12 years ago or something. But anyway, basically at the beginning there, I was just looking for like, hey, friends, colleagues, teammates or whatever, people who I could coach for free or for a very low rate. And then there was the word of mouth through that. The social media was, I guess, I had a blog for a while. I don't know that, I don't know if blogs are still a thing or if anyone ever read it, but like, that was like, I was trying to get that out. I've had a fairly consistent column in Ultra Running Magazine for some years. And, that's a helpful thing to get some of your, philosophies, ideas, and just having your name on the page. And then writing the book as well was definitely helpful. I mean, if you've written a book or not written a book, you're the same person, but it's a great business card, and it legitimizes, your professionality and in the eyes of strangers. That said, writing a book, I'm not telling you to go write a book right now, because it's really, really hard. It takes forever. It's really hard to get a publisher. It's really hard to make money directly with a book. But for me, there has definitely been significant indirect income as far as coaching clients and speaking engagements.
Can I go again? I am very interested in the writing aspect of what you started to develop, especially hearing that you have a sort of running column in Trail Runner magazine. And I'm curious to hear about how those connections and that sort of skill, as well as, or rather skill that became monetizable, how that process happened.
Yeah. Lots of slow, steady work, I guess, which is true. You want to be an athlete or a coach or anything else. I mean, sometimes we see people who we view as successful in a given area, and we think, oh my God, they had some big breakthrough, or, they were blessed from above or whatever. And in my experience, it's more just, putting in the work day after day, hour after hour, and having a lot of failures along the way. And, for me with writing, I've always enjoyed it. In most of my teaching career, I was teaching high school English. So that, built my skills and editing and, ability to write in a timely manner and that kind of stuff. And, I was just kind of doing it as a side thing. A lot of, in those early days, I would write a lot of race reports, go out and do the adventure race and write a report on it. And then I would just kind of shop it around, like, hey, there used to be this adventure sports magazine. I was like, hey, adventure sports magazine, you want to publish this thing? Or, hey, Ultra Running Magazine, I did this race, up in the Northwest Territory, snowshoeing and running, and wrote this story about it. You want to publish it? So, a lot of, free content, some paid, somewhat. I think the Ultra Running Magazine column became more regular, after I had written a book, which again, I think maybe add some legitimacy, at least perceived. So yeah, and then we haven't really talked about social media, but that's something I kind of, it's not my thing. Like, I didn't grow up with it. I'm not that good at it. I never look at it. But I do know, like, it's a business necessity these days. So that, to me, I've hired people here and there, to try to make that better. No one's really worked out. It's hard for anyone else to sort of create authentic content for you. So anyway, that's something I'm just kind of constantly working on. Something like getting on TV, in the eco challenge. I mean, that obviously boosted social media numbers, which is helpful to the podcast and maybe to getting the next book deal and that kind of stuff. But it's, it's one little thing after another.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the podcast and specifically how you decided on the format that you chose and how you chose to disseminate it.
Yeah, well, my first podcast was in 2005 and 6, and it was probably like one of 3 podcasts that existed at the time. And in hindsight, I should have kept doing it. It was me and this guy named Fred who lived in New York, and we had this adventure racing podcast. And anyway, it kind of petered out. But if we would have kept going, man, we would have been like steps ahead of Rich Roll and Joe Rogan and stuff. But anyway, like I said, it did peter out, and since then I always enjoyed it. I like talking to people. I like the intellectual stimulation of reading someone's book or, going through their stuff and trying to, I've guested on a lot of podcasts, and I know what it's like to be the guest who gets like the same boring questions over and over again. So I wanted to, to make it just different and maybe more fun, more playful. And then also, like you saw in the video there, my dad's retired, he has Alzheimer's, but he's still very personable and he really likes, these podcast conversations. So I was like, man, let's just do most of them with Dad. Like, he doesn't have to, he's not the tech support. He doesn't have to do research or anything, but he shows up and he's great. And, he asks questions, and sometimes he asks the same question over and over or forgets what he was saying, but it's fine. Like, it's, it's, in my opinion, it's adding a voice. People with Alzheimer's usually aren't kind of in the public eye. So, anyway, that's been good. And yeah, as far as the production and dissemination, I work with a small company out of South Africa, that produces podcasts. So they do the editing and they put it onto the feed, or I don't know. So I give them the files, and then on Monday it's on the podcast app. So yeah.
I feel a little bad, Travis. I might have spoken over a chat question. Emma Cantrell had to go. She had to coach this evening, but she would really like to know what advice you have for someone who's just quit their job and started a coaching business.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I again, this is just me personally, but my wife and I, and again, she's an entrepreneur as well. Our view has been, a lot more of like, shoot, aim, ready. So in other words, just do it, just get into it and act. And I would say also don't, again, my opinion, I don't think you don't need the physical infrastructure of an office and employees and, all this. Just start doing it. I mean, make a website, find people who want coaching. I don't care if it's your little sister, find someone who wants coaching and start coaching them. And then you're a coach, and, talk to other coaches. I would also say, especially if you haven't done it before, hire a coach, get coach. That's another thing that's helped me along, is having different athletic coaches, but also hiring business coaches, and like, okay, if I want to refine my speaking skills, I need to let me work with someone in that area who kind of helps people with that. So, yeah, I would just say, just do it, start small, step by step, and learn as you go, and also believe in yourself. I think anytime any of us start a new position or step, whether it's a career step or, marriage or parent or whatever, like or running your first 100-mile race, like there's going to be this imposter syndrome. Like, who the hell am I to do this thing? Right. But, you can, and the way that you learn to do it is just by doing it.
Go for it, Brett.
Hi,
Oh.
it's not Brett. My computer's broken, so I'm borrowing a computer. But with your father's Alzheimer's, so my father has early onset FTD. Kind of what's your experience with people with different psychoses and like coaching and being outdoors? If like, because I know it's good and like your experience with that, and like if you think like with the combination of coaching and your father, if you're also able to kind of help people that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Thanks for the great question. And I'm sorry to hear that about your dad. I mean, that's, it's tough news, obviously, for anyone to get. And I'm not a doctor or anything, but I know in our own journey, the being outdoors and just, I think, staying engaged. One a friend and client of mine who's a doctor in his 60s who's become, I coach him for running, but he's also become, a mentor and role model for me. One thing he told me was when people have an injury or a diagnosis, the ones who, sort of check out from what they love and say, this is it, the outcomes usually aren't very good. But for those who stay engaged, really moving, one of my favorite sayings now is, let's go as fast as we can and also as slow as we must. And so it's staying engaged, doing the things that you love. Maybe it looks different. Dad's not doing any more technical mountain biking or long runs alone in the woods or anything, but at this point, he can still go for runs and rides in the neighborhood alone. And then we have a team. You got to have a team mindset. So, I try to get him out for runs, or, his friend Marshall Ulrich, who you saw there in the video, Marshall come by and pick him up and take him for runs. So it's really a team mindset. And again, just staying engaged would be my advice. And I do think, we all have to go through pain and suffering and adversity. Some of it's by choice, again, in your ultra race or the Grand Traverse race that starts at midnight and it's cold and miserable and everything, that's suffering by choice. But we all in life have suffering that's not by choice. And that's, the medical stuff, the relationship challenges, the parenting, that those things can be really hard, but they also force growth. And I think that growth, at least for me, it's definitely made me a better coach, because I can, my own journey with challenges with anxiety and depression, that absolutely helps me coach other athletes and helps me relate to them. It helps me, maybe hone in a little or notice things and open up those conversations about challenges that they may be going through. And I would also say, this goes back maybe to Emma's question, any teaching or coaching, in my opinion, it's got to be person first, right? So you got to know the physiology, the programming, what running workout are you going to do, right? That stuff's important, but it has to be person first, because an athlete is a whole person, and you got to be in touch with that and start with the whole person.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the question.
Hey. Travis, thank you so much for giving us this time. We really appreciate it. I know that I've learned a ton. I feel like I have a lot more questions, but I'm gonna have to just schedule a time to have a call with you.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, give me a call, and to everyone else, I mean, if you think of something, whether it's now or in the future, you're welcome to get my email address from Maggie and drop a line, or if you come over here to Salida where it is still warm enough for mountain biking, maybe we'll say hi.
Careful, you'll get all of us down there this weekend. Like, hi Travis, wanna go bike?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I'll let you know when we have this recording. I'll send it to you in case you want it. And yeah,
cool.
It'll be the first of many conversations.
Yeah, sounds good. You guys keep up your hard work. Wish you all the best with with your coaching, with your graduate program, with everything else that you're doing as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye, guys.